In the deep silence of space, the planet Xyrian floated like a lonely blue jewel. Its 3 suns had just begun to set, casting long golden shadows over the crystal towers of its capital city, Velmora. The air shimmered softly with energy, and, for a moment, the world looked peaceful. But inside the High Council Tower, fear had gripped the hearts of its leaders. Councillor Iswara, her face pale and eyes filled with sorrow, stood before a large holographic screen. The image showed thousands of red blips closing in. Each red dot was a ship. Each ship carried death. The Varnark are only 6 light days away, she said, her voice trembling. Our outer colonies, gone. Our defense fleets, destroyed. There was silence. No one in the room moved. Even the hum of machines felt too loud. Councillor Tenric, the oldest and wisest of them, finally spoke. They devoured the Arvan system in less than 2 weeks. 5 planets, billions of lives, gone. We are next. Have we tried sending another plea to the Galactic Council? Someone asked. They will not come, Asera replied, bitterness creeping into her voice. They closed their borders. They called us too close to the swarm. We are alone. She walked over to a control panel. Her hand hovered above a glowing blue button. This is our last chance, she said. We will send one final message, not to any one government, not to allies, but to the stars themselves. The signal far above the planet, in a large orbital dish called the Star Echo Array. Engineers prepared for the most powerful transmission ever attempted. The energy needed was massive, enough to black out cities. But it didn't matter now. Inside the control room, a young Xyrenian named Kale looked up at the blinking lights and pulsing codes on the screen. Will anyone hear it? He asked the chief technician. I don't know, she replied honestly. Maybe someone ... out there. Kale watched as the countdown began. 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. The dish pointed to the black sky and fired. A silent, invisible wave of data, sound, and emotion blasted into the void. The message carried their language, pictures of their people, images of destruction, cries for mercy. And at the heart of the signal was a simple voice. We beg for help. We are not warriors, but we do not wish to die. If you can hear this, please help us. The message was sent out in all directions, to every star and every world within 300 light years. And then, they waited. Silence for days. No response came. On the streets of Velmora, people tried to act normal. Shops opened. Children played. But everyone kept looking up at the sky, wondering which day would be their last dot. At night, Kale often stood on the roof of his small home, staring into the stars. He imagined ships made of light coming to save them. He imagined heroes. But every morning, the news only brought more fear. The Varnark swarm had destroyed another defense satellite. Their scouts were now seen in nearby space. The swarm would be there in less than a week, and still no one answered the call. The forgotten planet, but on a distant, overlooked planet called Earth, something did happen. Deep under the ice of Alaska, in a secret underground facility named Project Archangel, a strange signal was picked up. Most satellites ignored it. It wasn't in any known language, but one computer flagged it. It matched fragments found inside an old, crashed alien ship recovered decades ago, something the public never knew about. Inside the command center, Director Samantha Reyes stared at the screen. The signal was faint but clear. Is it a trap? Asked one officer. I don't think so, she said. There's pain in this. Desperation. The tech team began decoding it. As the image of a crystal city filled with flames appeared, and the soft voice begged for help, everyone in the room fell silent. Where's this coming from? Reyes asked. A young analyst looked up. Planet Xyrian, never heard of it. But, it's real, they're being attacked. Badly. Samantha turned to a general standing nearby. Tell me, she said slowly, do we still have teams from the Black Star program ready? He nodded. They're waiting for your order. The had always known that they were not alone, but the people weren't told, not yet. The leaders feared panic, so the truth remained buried until now. Director Reyes walked into the high command room. The president of the World Council appeared on the screen. You want to send help? He asked. Yes. Not diplomats. Not doctors. Soldiers. The president looked unsure. This could expose Earth, bring danger to our doorstep. It already has, she replied, showing a scan of the Varnak ships. If these things reach us one day, we'll be alone too. Like them, but if we fight now, together, maybe we won't have to fight alone later. There was a long pause. Send them, the president finally said. A new journey begins within hours. Earth's most elite unit Task Force Echo was awakened. Men and women who were trained for space combat, who had seen things the public never knew about. They wore black armor. Their weapons were designed from both human and alien technology. They weren't just soldiers, they were the shadow between stars. On board the ESS Valiant, the team prepped for launch. Commander Jackson Reeve, a hardened veteran with cybernetic implants, stood before his team. They sent a cry for help, he said, and we're going to answer it. We don't know them, we don't owe them, but we do this because we're human. Because someone has to. The engines roared. The ship tore through the sky and disappeared into hyperspace. Meanwhile, on ZY Rion... 3 days remained. The Zyrenians began preparing for the end. Families gathered, leaders gave speeches, even the soldiers began to lose hope. Kale returned to the Star Echo Array, staring at the silent screen. They didn't come, he whispered, but then a light appeared, not in the sky but on the array's main screen, a signal. One they didn't recognize, a new voice. Cold.com, human. This is Commander Jackson Reeve of the ESS Valiant. We received your signal, we're en route. Hold the line. Reinforcements are coming. The Zyrenians stared at each other in shock. Reinforcements. Kale whispered. Counselor Acera arrived moments later, reading the translated message again and again. She looked up, tears forming in her eyes. They heard us, she said. In the darkness of space as the ESS Valiant neared Zarian, the crew began scanning the swarm. The data was worse than expected. Thousands of ships, living organisms, feeding on fear, emotion, energy. Commander Reeve stared out the window. They're not going to wait, he said. This isn't a rescue mission anymore. This is a war. He tapped a command. His soldiers armed up. And Earth's first war in the stars was about to begin. 3 days before arrival at Zyranth, stars outside the ESS Valiant seemed calm. But inside the ship, tension was building. Commander Jackson Reeve stood in front of a glowing hologram, showing Zyran's system and the massive Varnock swarm moving toward the planet like a storm. He had seen war before, but never like this. These aren't pirates or rebels, he said to his team. These things consume entire worlds. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Kara Lin, zoomed in on the swarm data. They're alive, she said. The ships are made of living tissue. They grow, adapt, and multiply using whatever they consume. Like space locusts, whispered one soldier. Reeve nodded. Exactly. And they don't negotiate. Project Archangel headquarters, Earth on Earth. Director Samantha Reyes watched the Valiant's live feed through a secure channel. The Varnick fleet was larger than they expected. Humanity had sent just one ship, one squad. She felt a chill. Did we send enough? Asked her advisor. Reyes didn't look away from the screen. We sent the best on board the Valiant inside the hangar. Weapons were checked, armor sealed, and final prayers whispered. Each soldier wore a black exosuit with blue glowing lines, designed to boost strength, reflexes, and healing. Reeve addressed them. This is not a rescue mission, he said. This is first contact and possibly the last battle Zyrian ever sees. You all trained for this. We're faster, smarter, meaner. One soldier raised his hand. Sir, why are we helping them? What if they just bring the enemy to us? Reeve paused. Because we're human, and because one day we might send a message into the stars. And if no one answers, then we all die alone. There was silence. Then, one by one, they all nodded. Cy Rion. High Council Tower Counselor Acera stared at the new signal from the humans. It came in cold, efficient language. Assisting forces approaching. Brace for contact. Advise on safe landing zones. Prepare evacuation corridors. The Zyrenians were confused. They didn't ask to speak to the council, asked Henrik. No, Acera said. They're not here to talk, they're here to fight. Still, the people of Zarian weren't sure what to expect. They'd never known war. The humans were terrifying too, armored, armed. They moved with discipline, not grace. The landing 2 days before the Varnak arrival. The Valiant dropped into low orbit. The skies of Zarian lit up as black ships pierced through the clouds. From the ground, citizens watched in awe and fear. The ships looked like shadows made of metal and fire. Kale, the young tech who helped send the distress signal, stood outside the Star Echo Array as one of the shuttles landed nearby. The ship hissed and the ramp dropped down. Humans stepped out. They were not what Kale imagined. They were not glowing saviors or angels of light. They were dangerous, focused. Their eyes scanned every corner. Their weapons buzzed with energy. One of them walked up to Kale. He was tall, muscular, with a scar across his jaw. He removed his helmet. I'm Commander Reeve, he said. You called. For help, we're here. Kale hesitated. Are you going to stop them? Reeve looked up at the sky. Only if we move fast. Preparing for war, humans wasted no time. They scanned city structures, set up defense turrets, and built a communication uplink to the Valiant. They asked the Zyrenians for nothing. No council meetings, no long speeches, just space to work. At first the Zyrenians felt insulted, but soon they watched in silence, amazed. The humans trained for war like artists. The soldiers had strange habits. One talked to his gun, another carved names into a knife. One even danced before every mission. Why do they act like this? Kale asked Kara Lynn. She smirked. Because war is hell, so we carry pieces of ourselves into it. That's what keeps us sane. Zyrenian concerns. The council debated the humans' presence. They're cold, said one. They barely speak. To us, they're preparing to die, as Sarah said. And they don't fear it. That's what makes them different. But Tenric warned. Are we sure they came to help and not to conquer? Sarah replied calmly. They didn't ask for anything in return. A soldier's story. Later that night, Kale visited the human base and met Sergeant Elena Brooks, a medic and sniper. She was fixing her rifle. You've fought before? Kale asked. She nodded. Mars Rebellion, pirate raids, black site retrievals. Why do you help us? You don't know us. She looked at him with tired eyes. Because someone helped me once, when no one else would. Kale didn't ask more. He simply said, thank you. One day before invasion, scouts reported the Varnak swarm had entered the system. Alarms rang across Velmora. The humans were ready. Commander Reeves stood atop a defense tower, looking at the approaching darkness. On his wrist, the Varnak ship count kept rising. 2,000. No, wait, 2,300, Carolyn said, eyes wide. They're still coming. Reeve clenched his jaw. Wake the heavy units. We go full protocol. Hold this world until the last breath. First sign. Small creatures appeared in the Sky Scout drones of the Varnak. They looked like black jellyfish with red eyes, floating and scanning. Reeve gave the order, take them out. Snipers fired. Drones dropped from the sky like bugs. But the swarm wasn't stopping. Zyrenians watching from rooftops and towers. Zyrenians gathered to watch the humans. They expected fear, panic. But the humans smiled. Why are they laughing? Asked a child. Because they're about to do what they were born to do, said as era. Final scene. A sky on fire. As the red sun rose the next morning, thousands of glowing dots appeared in the sky. Swarm was here. Zyrenians trembled, but Reeve raised his arm, pointing to the skies. Now, he said. From the clouds, missiles roared. Turrets fired. Soldiers launched into the air, on jetpacks. The battle had begun, but this was just the beginning. Zyrian planet surface. First day of the invasion. The skies were no longer blue. Thousands of black dots moved across the heavens like smoke and fire. The Varnak swarm had arrived. Their ships were shaped like sharp bones, glowing with a red mist. They didn't fly. They crawled through the sky like living nightmares. On the ground, alarms echoed through the crystal city of Velmora. Zyrenians panicked. Shops closed. Families ran underground. People prayed. But above it all, something strange happened. The humans stood still. Ready. Commander Jackson Reeves stood at the front line, watching the enemy with a cold gaze. He pressed a button on his wrist. Echo team, move to positions. Phase 1 begins now. Phase 1. Hit and fade from hidden towers. Human snipers opened fire. Their railguns made no sound, just flashes of blue light. Pop, pop. Varnak scouts dropped like insects. A few tried to scan the human forces, but EMP grenades disabled them midair. For the first few minutes, the humans danced through the battlefield like ghosts. Zyrenians watched from rooftops, speechless. These strangers, these creatures from a distant world, were not afraid. They were smiling. Kale's view. Kale had been sent with a Zyrenian camera team to document the new allies. At first, he stayed behind the walls, but curiosity pulled him closer. He followed Sergeant Elena Brooks, who was planting traps near the city's entrance. Shouldn't we hide? Kale asked her. She looked at him and grinned. No, we don't hide. We bait. Just then, the ground shook. Massive Varnak assault. Creatures, spiked beasts with glowing stomachs, landed hard near the city gates. They roared. Zyrenians screamed. Elena didn't even blink. She pressed a button. Boom. Explosives hidden under the road blasted upward, tearing through the enemy's underbelly. The creature fell, twitching and burning. Kale stared, stunned. Elena stood beside the fire. Told you, she said. Bait. Inside the swarm, the Varnak ships weren't like human machines. They didn't have cockpits or engines. They were alive, grown in giant breeding pits, filled with red plasma. They fed on radiation, fear, and even memory. As they landed, long tentacle creatures spilled out, each one hunting anything with emotion. Their goal was clear: consume, expand, evolve. Phase 2. Boots on the ground. Commander Reeve gave the order. Deploy. From the Valiant in orbit, dozens of drop pods fell like meteors. Each one smashed into the surface with a loud boom, opening to reveal black-armored human soldiers with glowing visors. The Zyrenians had never seen anything like it. It was not war. It was a storm made of steel and fire. Zyrenians panic in the capital. Councillor Tenric shouted. They're bringing the battle to our cities. They'll destroy everything. But Councillor Acera responded sharply. No, they're holding the enemy here so it doesn't reach the rest of the planet. She looked to the sky, whispering, they are giving us a chance. Human versus Varnak. Clash begins. The first real ground battle began in the Canyon District, a narrow sector of Velmora with crystal buildings and long walkways. The Varnak charged. Black creatures with spider legs, acid mouths, and burning eyes stormed toward the humans. The humans didn't retreat. Reeve shouted, form line. Soldiers kneeled and fired in bursts. Blue energy rounds lit the street like lightning. Behind them, flamethrowers cleared the walls. Drones flew overhead, marking targets. One Varnak beast jumped from above, landing on a soldier. It roared, until Carolyn slid in, slicing its head off with a plasma blade. She looked up, still alive. Reeve. Good, he said. Let's make sure they're not. Kale's turning point. Kale, watching through his drone cam, finally understood. Humans weren't here to save Zyrenians like heroes in stories. They were here because they had seen the end before, and refused to let it happen again. He turned to his commander. Let me help them, he said. You're not a fighter. I can fly, I can scout, I can warn them. The commander paused, then nodded. Revealing the hive. Biced as the battle raged, human sensors picked up something massive in orbit, a creature 10 times bigger than any Varnak ship. The hive beast. It didn't land, it hovered, dripping red clouds from its underbelly. It was birthing new swarms in real time. Commander Reeve cursed. They're turning the atmosphere into a nest. What do we do? Kara asked. He looked at the sky. We take the war up there. Preparing for the climax. Part 3 ends. Earth's forces realize the real war is not just on the ground, it's in the sky. The Valiant prepares to launch an assault on the hive beast. Reeve, Kara, Elena, and even Kale get ready for what may be a one-way mission. The Zyrenians now believe they no longer see humans as strangers. They see them as something else, not gods, not monsters, but warriors born from fire. Planet Zarian. One day after the first battle, smoke drifted across the city of Velmora. Streets once clean and peaceful were now blackened with scorch marks. Buildings made of crystal glass were cracked and glowing red from heat. The Varnak attack had been pushed back for now, but peace had a cost. Over 200 Zyrenians were dead. 5 human soldiers had fallen, and many more were wounded. Inside the command tent, Commander Jackson Reeves stood beside a holographic table marking new enemy positions. The hive beast was still above the city, floating like a second moon, birthing swarms every few hours. Reeve turned to Caroline. They're adapting. They're learning. We need to move faster. She nodded. We need allies, not just bystanders. Reeve stared at the Zyrenian city map. Then it's time they learn how to fight. Training begins at dawn. Human soldiers entered Zyrenian buildings, calling volunteers to a nearby training field. Most Zyrenians hesitated. We're not warriors, they said. You will be, replied Sergeant Alina Brooks. A few brave Zyrenians stepped forward, including Kale, the young technician who once worked at the Star Echo Array. They were handed simple weapons, stun rifles, blades, shields, but it wasn't the weapons that shocked them, it was the training. Faster, human soldiers shouted. Move like your life depends on it, because it does. Cover your teammates or die together. No talking, just action. Zyrenians struggled. Their bodies were not made for speed or strength. They were used to peace, logic, and negotiation. After 2 hours, some collapsed, others walked away, but Kale stayed. He fell, got up, fell again, but he stayed. Alina noticed. You're not strong, she said, but you've got heart. That's enough for now. Council backlash. In the council hall, arguments erupted. They're turning our citizens into soldiers, said Tenric angrily. This is not our way. They are corrupting our culture. Councillor Acera spoke calmly. Our culture will die with us if we don't adapt. They are not making us killers. They are making us survivors. A lesson in pain. Later that evening, Kale found Alina cleaning her gear. Why do you fight like this? He asked. With such fury she looked at him, eyes hard. I was 14 when pirates hit my colony. No one came to save us. I survived, hiding under my mother's body. You learn quick when the universe doesn't care. Kale went quiet. I'm sorry, he said. Don't be, she replied. Just don't waste the chance I never had. Nightfall, Varnak counterattacked. Swarm returned after dark, not in full strength, but with a new weapon, fear bombs. They dropped pods filled with gas that made Zyrenians hallucinate, see their worst memories. Some screamed, others ran in terror, but the humans stood firm, wearing special masks. Kara shouted, gas pods incoming. Kale, untrained, began to panic. Visions filled his mind, his brother's death, his mother crying, his own uselessness. Elena grabbed him. This isn't real. She slapped him across the face, then handed him her spare mask. Breathe. We don't run from fear. We use it. Kale put the mask on, and the visions stopped. He looked around. He wasn't dead. He was alive, still fighting. Zyrenians strike back, inspired by Kale's courage. More Zyrenians joined the fight. They helped carry ammo, set traps, mapped tunnels under the city. One young Zyrenian, Revo, snuck up behind a Varnak drone and shot it in the head. A human soldier clapped. Not bad for a newbie, Revo smiled. Not bad for a survivor. Commander Reeves' plan. Reeve knew the hive beast had to be taken down, but it wasn't that simple. The ship was alive, guarded, and pulsing with energy. We'll need to go in, he told Kara, inside the beast. She raised an eyebrow. You mean land inside its stomach? He nodded. We've fought worse. Final moments, volunteers stepped forward. The humans were preparing a stealth assault team. It would be a suicide mission. Reeve asked for volunteers. Kale stepped forward. I know their air systems. I can get us through. Reeve stared at him. You're not a soldier, but I've learned from the best, Kale replied. Behind him, other Zyrenians stood tall. Revo, 3 engineers, 2 doctors, even a teacher. We're ready, they said. Elena smiled. Well then, welcome to the war. Closing scene. The team prepared to board a dropship for the hive beast. The city behind them lit up with hope, not because the war was over, but because the Zyrenians had finally chosen to fight. The lesson was clear. Peace is beautiful, but peace without strength will never last. Final line. They gave us more than weapons, Kale whispered. They gave us the will to stand. And now we will not kneel again. Planet Zirion. Just before dawn, the stars were still above, but the skies of Zirion had changed. The great hive beast hovered like a silent god of death, casting a long shadow over the land. Its body pulsed with red energy. From its belly, new creatures dropped every hour. Winged scouts, acid hounds, bone-armored, tanks, and the defenders of Elm were tired. Very tired. But they still stood. The mission begins, Commander. Jackson Reeve led a small squad toward a dropship. The plan was clear. Enter the hive beast, disable its heart, and cut off the swarm's command center. The team included humans and Zyrenians alike. Reeve and Kara Lynn, Sergeant Elena Brooks, Kale, the former technician, Revo, the youngest Zyrenian, 2 engineers, and a healer as they loaded in. Kale looked up at the massive beast in the sky. It doesn't even move, he said. Just watches because it knows we're coming, Reeve replied. It's waiting. The dropship engines roared. They launched. Back in Velmora while the assault team flew, those left behind held the city. Hundreds of Zyrenians now worked alongside human soldiers, loading weapons, building shields, treating wounds. It wasn't just humans fighting anymore. They were all soldiers now. Counselor Hasera watched from a tower as supply pods dropped from orbit. I never imagined this day, she said. A young guard asked, do you think they'll succeed? Hasera answered, I think they already have. We are not who we were, and that is because of them. Inside the beasts, a dropship flew into a massive, dripping tunnel that opened at the hive beasts. Bottom. Inside, it was like flying into a living nightmare. Walls pulsed like lungs, fluids dripped, red lights flashed inside the beast's flesh. Strange sounds echoed like whispers and screams. Kale looked sick. I'm standing in someone's stomach, Reeve replied. No, you're standing in a living weapon. They landed, and moved forward in silence. Blades out, weapons loaded. The deeper they went, the more the beast seemed aware. The trap in the central chamber. They found the core, a glowing orb of living energy, suspended in a web of bone and nerve. But as they approached, the floor closed behind them. Walls rose. Creatures emerged from sacks in the walls, flesh guards of the hive. Dozens of them. It was a trap. They knew we were coming, shouted Revo. Kara pulled her blade. Then let's give them what they expected. The fight of the brave. The chamber, lit with fire and screams. Sergeant Elena took the left flank. gunning down to flesh guards before being struck in the side. She kept fighting. Kale and the engineers planted charges on the core, while Reeve and Kara covered them. But the hive had sent more creatures, more pain, and something new. A warden, tall as a building, armored with bone and spikes. It roared, shaking the chamber. Reeve turned to Kale. Blow it. Now. Kale hesitated. We'll be trapped, Reeve shouted. Do it. Kale pressed the detonator. Explosion. The hive core exploded in a burst of red fire. The shockwave blew through the beast. Outside, the hive beast shuddered and began to fall. Velmora watched in awe as the giant body collapsed in the sky, crashing into the eastern mountains. The earth shook for miles. The enemy swarmed, froze. Confused. Leaderless. The aftermath in the destroyed chamber. The team crawled out of rubble and smoke. Sergeant Elena wasn't moving. Rivo kneeled beside her. She's gone. Kale didn't speak. His hands were shaking. Reeve stood silently, helmet removed, eyes closed. She was the toughest of us, Kara whispered. Kale wiped his tears. She saved me more than once. She saved all of us, Reeve said. This was her last lesson. Back in Velmora, news spread fast. The hive beast was dead. Zyrenians celebrated. Humans stood quiet. For them, victory always had a cost. Asa gave a speech from the crystal steps. We asked the stars for help, she said, and the stars sent us warriors. But what we received was more. We received teachers, friends, heroes. Kale's journal voiceover that night. Kale sat alone under the stars, writing. She taught me to fight. Reeve taught me to lead. Kara showed me how to stand without fear. But today, I learned something harder. Victory doesn't always feel like winning. Sometimes, it feels like losing someone you didn't know you needed. That's the cost of mercy. They didn't have to help us, but they did. And we will never forget. Final scene. The next step. The Varnak forces began retreating, but Reeve gave no orders to celebrate. Prepare for next waves, he told his team. Sir, they're running, Kara said. For now, he answered. But the galaxy isn't safe, not yet. This was just one hive. He looked at the stars, and somewhere out there, more people are begging for help. Earth, Project Archangel Command. 7 days after Hive Beast's death, the stars had changed. The fall of the hive beast over Zyrian had sent shockwaves across space. For the first time, a swarm had been stopped. The transmission was clear. Lives. The hive fell. The war is not over. Humanity's secret was no longer secret. Earth had entered the galaxy's war publicly, powerfully, and without apology, and now, Earth was ready to strike. Council of Unified Earth, Geneva massive global meeting was held. Representatives from every nation sat in silence as Director Samantha Reyes of Project Archangel showed the data. This, she said, pointing at the hologram, was one hive. There are dozens, maybe hundreds, hidden across star systems, feeding, breeding. The president of the World Council asked, do we have the strength to fight them? Reyes replied, alone. No, but now, we're not alone anymore. She pressed a button. The screen changed to show images of Zyrenians training, building, fighting. They are awake, because we woke them. Now others will follow. Earth's military awakens. For years, Earth had secretly prepared, beneath oceans, inside moons, hidden behind asteroid belts. Now it was time to show the stars what humanity was really capable of. 10 war fleets activated, 50 colony ships refitted for evac and aid, Black Star units deployed in forward positions, new weapons launched, part human, part alien tech. Operation Iron Dawn was declared. Its mission, seek and destroy hive worlds. Zyrian Velmora, base camp. Commander Jackson Reeve and his surviving team watched as the first Earth fleet arrived over Zyrian. Giant starships, sleek, powerful, marked with flags of Earth. Reeve turned to Kara Lynn. Well, they finally caught up. Kara smiled. Took them long enough. The Zyrenians stared at the new ships in awe. Kale whispered, your home must be powerful. Reeve looked at the sky, his voice low. Not powerful. Determined. We know what happens when no one answers the call. New allies stepped forward across nearby systems. Smaller civilizations had received Zyron's broadcast. Some had ignored it, but others had listened. Now, ships from 3 other races arrived. The Theraki, lizard-like engineers. The Volan, blue-skinned telepaths. The Hasari, metal-bodied warriors with living armor. That they came not to rule, but to join. And all of them had one question: who led the resistance? The answer was always the same: the humans did. Inside the Valiant mission briefing, Commander Reeve stood before a new war map. Dozens of red dots glowed hive worlds across the sector. Reeve pointed to one. This is Hive Prime 3. It's not the largest, but it controls 6 nearby systems. If we take it, we break their chain. Kara asked. How defend it? Reeve replied. Heavily, but we won't be alone. He turned to Kale and Revo, now wearing light Cyrenian armor. You two ready to fight off your world? Kale smiled, ready to fight for it. The new war begins with Cyrenians, humans, and new allies. A combined strike force launched 1,200 ships, 20,000 soldiers. One goal: to hit the swarm before they could regroup. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. Hive Prime 3 outer orbiters, the human lead alliance, arrived. They saw a terrifying sight: massive hive structures floating in space, living minds drifting like jellyfish, swarms of creatures circling the planet like flies. Commander Reeve's voice came over comms. All units, this is for Earth, for Xyrian, and for every world that cried, and no one answered. Let's show them what happens when humanity fights back. The attack began. Fury unleashed. Earth's fleets moved in formations no alien had ever seen: tight, smart, fast. Fighter drones flew like flocks of birds. Orbital cannons fired precision nukes. New plasma torpedoes tore through hive shells. Xyrenian fighters joined in, less advanced, but full of courage. Kale flew his first mission, guiding missiles into a hive tunnel. Revo fired twin rifles from a fighter wing, laughing. Even Carolyn boarded a floating hive station, planting a core bomb inside. The hive screamed, and Earth's answer was fire, a costly victory after for brutal hours. Hive Prime 3 collapsed. Its queen died screaming. Its children burned in space, but the cost was high. 1,000 Alliance lives lost, 200 Xyrenians, 2 Earth ships destroyed, but they won, and the stars would never forget it. Xyrian broadcasts again, this time not to beg, to warn. To all who hide in fear, rise. To those watching the hive destroy worlds one by one, stand. Earth answered our cry. Now we fight beside them, and we are not done. Final scene: the message back on Earth. Director Reyes received a private transmission from Commander Reeve. He spoke calmly. Xyrian is safe. Hive Prime 3 is gone. But this is just the start. They'll come harder next time, but we'll be ready. Because now, the galaxy knows. Humanity is here. And we don't run. Deep in the dark sector, Hive Queen's chamber, silenced, cold, endless, alive, in the black void between systems, hidden inside a hollowed asteroid covered in bone and hive flesh. She stirred. The Hive Queen, being older than most stars. Her body was massive, her skin dark like oil, covered in red glowing veins. Her mind stretched across galaxies. She didn't speak in words, she spoke in impulses, in hunger, in instinct. And now, she was angry. The fall of Hive Prime 3, the Hive Queen watched through her spawn's memories. The fire, the screaming, the destruction of Hive Prime 3, the death of her children. And worst of all, the source was not another hive, not a natural predator. It was something new: humans, weak, fragile, young, and yet they had burned one of her strongest hives to ash. She speaks for the first time in ages. Sin, a voice like 1,000 whispers layered into one. She sent out a single thought across her empire: awaken all. The stars bleed. They will remember our name again. All across the galaxy, hives that had slept for centuries began to stir. Cocoons cracked open. Egg worlds pulsed with red light. Swarm moons shifted into motion. The hive was going to war. Xyrian Velmora, recovery zone back on Xyrian. The city was rebuilding, crystal towers being repaired, children returning to schools, Xyrenians walking beside human soldiers. For the first time in centuries, the planet felt safe. Kale helped set up new defense systems using hybrid Texarenian cores and human targeting software. Even Revo had joined Earth's scouting unit. The people were beginning to hope again, but then came the signal. A message from the stars. A coded warning arrived from a distant Earth probe near the edge of known space. Multiple hive signatures, thousands, moving in formation. Estimated arrival in 17 days. Origin, unknown. Hive source. Commander Jackson Reeves stared at the transmission. It's not just a swarm, Carolyn said. It's an army. Reeves' voice dropped. No, it's her. Back on Earth, Emergency Session Director Samantha Reyes gathered leaders again. We poked the nest, she said, and the Queen noticed. Images showed hive fleets forming across multiple systems. If these all strike at once, even up, fleets will crack. One general asked, what's the plan? Reyes replied, we stop them before they strike. We go to her. Operation Queen. For the first time in history, a multi-species alliance fleet was created. Earth's 10 war fleets, Zyrenian stealth ships, Volan minejammers, Hesari drop units, Tharaki engineers with star drills. Their goal: find the Queen, destroy her, end the Hive. Kale and Revo volunteered immediately. Commander Reeve was placed in command of Queen Full Force 1. The journey begins. The Queen's location was guessed by tracking old Hive data, hidden psychic echoes, and the patterns of the retreating swarms. She was deep in the dark sector, a place no one had dared enter before, a place older than memory. As the ships jumped into hyperspace, Kale looked out the window. Think we'll come back? He asked Kara. She smiled. I don't plan on dying, but if I do, I'll make sure she remembers me. Dark sector, the edge of reality. When they arrived, the stars disappeared. Black mist covered space like a living curtain. Even machines struggled. Navigation blinked in and out. And then they saw it. The Hive Queen's world. A planet of bone, red rivers, and giant pulsing towers made of flesh. Swarms circled it like bees to a hive. But this was not a hive. This was the origin. Final strategy. Commander Reeve gathered the team. Every fleet will strike at once. The goal is not to wipe them out, it's to create a whole. Then what? Asked Revo. Reeve turned to Kale and Kara. Take a small strike ship, infiltrate the Hive, find the Queen, end her. Kale's voice trembled. You really think we can kill something that old? Reeve looked him in the eye. I don't care how old she is, I only care that she bleeds. Final scene, entering the Mars. The battle above raged ships, burning creatures screaming. A tiny strike ship moved through the chaos. Inside it, Reeve, Kara, Kale, Revo, and 2 elite Black Star soldiers. They aimed for a glowing tunnel. In the Hive Queen's world, she felt them, and for the first time in centuries, she was afraid. The Hive Queen's world inside the Martha ship tore through layers of bone and muscle as it entered the Hive Queen's lair. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat. Acid mist drifted through the air. Every second felt like breathing inside a living nightmare. Commander Jackson Reeve gripped his rifle tight. Beside him were Kara Lynn, Kale, Revo, and 2 elite Black Star soldiers, Gabe and Nova. Kale whispered, this place feels like it's watching us. It is, Reeve replied. She knows we're here, and deep within the living tunnels. So did she. Outside, the great battle begins in orbit. Earth's war fleets and allied forces launched an allied assault on the Queen's world. Plasma beams lit up the sky. Star drones tore through Hive. Wings Volan psychic warriors clashed with swarm mines. Zyrenian bombers hit ground towers, but the Hive was endless. Every creature killed. 2 more emerged. This wasn't just a battle, it was a war for the soul of our galaxy, and it all depended on Reeve's strike team. The Queen's chamber. After fighting through swarms, the team reached the central chamber, a vast space the size of a city, glowing, red and humming with low-frequency screams. There she waited, the Hive Queen. She was massive, half body, half machine, covered in spikes, wings folded behind her like a cathedral roof. Her eyes were deep voids of ancient thought. She didn't speak with sound. She invaded their minds. You crawl into my home. You think yourselves powerful, but you are fireflies before a star. I am forever. You are moments. Kara growled. We only need one moment. The final fight. The Hive Queen unleashed everything. Acid tendrils, psychic blasts, flesh guards with armored hides. Gabe was impaled shielding. Kale Nova detonated a suicide charge to open a path. Kara slashed through guards with her plasma blade, while Rivo climbed a column to fire down on the Queen's exposed flesh. Kale found the core pulsing behind a wall of bone. He called out, I need 30 seconds to overload it. Reeve and Kara stood in front of him, shielding him with everything they had. A choice of fire. The Queen's voice entered Reeve's mind again. End this, and you end yourselves. There are more like me. Kill me, and my children scatter angry, hungry. You will start a war you cannot stop. Reeve replied out loud, eyes cold. It already started when you answered their cries with death. Kale shouted, core ready. Get out! No Timmy! Kara yelled. Reeve turned to Kale and shoved a data crystal into his chest. Take this. Give it to Earthrun. What about you? Reeve looked at the Queen. I'm ending it. The explosion. Kale and Revo sprinted to the drop pod. Reeve turned to Kara. One more dance. She nodded. Let's make it hurt. They charged straight into the Queen's heart as Kale and Revo launched out of the chamber. A second later, boom. Entire Hive core erupted in white fire. The Queen's scream was silent, but it echoed across the stars. The aftermath, silence in the stars all across the galaxy. Hive creatures froze, disconnected, confused. Dying Hive ships crashed, swarms dissolved. The Queen's death was not just physical, it was psychic collapse. The hive mind fractured. The war was over. Earth HQ. 1 week later, Director Reyes stood in the Hall of Victory as a hollow image of Commander Reeves' last message played. We didn't come to be heroes. We came because no one else would. If you're watching this, we did it. But never forget, we were just the first to say, enough. Zyrian, the monumental crystal statue, was raised in Velmora 5. Figures Gada, Reeve, and Ina Norba. Gabe. At the base were words carved in both human and Zyrenian. They answered when the stars were silent. They stood when others knelt. And they lit a fire in the galaxy that will never die. Kale's journal. Final entry. I was once a tech worker, afraid of war. I begged the stars for someone to save us, and they came. Not as gods, not as monsters, but as humans. They burned bright. And in their fire we found our future.